Hi, future Martians. Nikki here to take you on a journey to the Martian Congressional Republic, or the MCR. So gather around the blue light for my non-spoiler review of Gods of Risk by James S.A. Corey in this episode of iWizard. Gods of Risk is a novella that is part of the Expanse series, and it takes place after the events of the second Expanse book, which was Caliban's War. And at this point, Martians believe that Earth was responsible for the protomolecule weapon and set it on Mars as an attack. So the Martians are rebelling over this, and there are riots and acts of destruction taking place. We get to continue in this novella with Bobby's storyline, and if you remember, she was one of the major POVs from Caliban's War. But we do not get her POV at all in Gods of Risk. Instead, we get her nephew David's POV. If you do follow the Expanse TV series, this storyline comes up in season 4 of the show, so it's out of order from the books, and it's also quite different from the books. So don't just assume that you saw this storyline in season 4, so you know what it's all about. It is different. And I'm currently halfway through book 3 of The Expanse right now, which is Abaddon's Gate. And as far as I can tell, there is not any necessary info included in this novella that you'll need for the rest of the series. But you should read this if, 1, you want to learn more about Martian civilization, and 2, if you really enjoyed Bobby's storyline and you want to find out what happens to her. So the setting of Gods of Risk is the Mariner Valley on Mars. Specifically, it's the city of Londres Nova. It's an underground city comprised of various neighborhoods. So you get to learn about kind of the character of each neighborhood and also what day-to-day life is like. Let's take a look at characters, and I've included images of the actors here to give you a visual to go along. So starting with David, he is the only POV that we get in the novella, and once again, he is Bobby's nephew. He is almost 16 years old, and he's studying biochemical engineering in the Martian equivalent of a high school, which they call the lower school. He is an excellent student, and he is awaiting his placement in the upper school, where he'll study for the next 8 years and earn his place in Martian society. And we learn at the beginning that he has gotten himself caught up in a bad situation where he's cooking batches of drugs on the side. And one of the reasons that he's gotten himself into this is, I think, because he likes to perceive himself as a competent adult who can make things happen and get stuff done. He also sees himself as chivalrous, which drives him throughout the novella as well, because as like any teenage boy, he's strongly motivated by sex, and he has a crush on Lily, who you see here as well. She cooks batches of drugs along with him, and technically she belongs to their drug dealer and boss named Hutch. Now, in the TV series, the name Hutch belongs to a different character that we meet in season 5. In the series, his name is Essay or Asai, something like that. It's been a minute since I've seen season 4. But we also learn about the different neighborhoods in the city of Londres Nova. And Hutch lives in Innis Deep, while Lily lives in Innis Shallows. And these two Innis neighborhoods are just full of outsiders, antisocials, people who don't fit in with the Martian way or Martian society. And then we have Bobby, of course. And Bobby, if you recall, was a gunnery sergeant in the Martian Marines. But after the events of Caliban's war, she has been placed on psychological furlough. And so she's living with her brother, who is David's father. So she's living with David's family, and she spends the day watching the news feeds and pumping iron. So she is living without purpose. Here's what I liked. I really enjoyed learning about Martian society, culture, and values. And of course, you get these little nuggets of details, like, for example, when David is riding the tube that is the Martian subway, there are these cameras everywhere with facial recognition software. And so they tailor the ads and the videos to the demographics of the passengers. And this is a really well executed story that can easily be read in 2 sittings, and it's satisfying how everything comes together. And it does strongly portray that many Martians live to serve this higher purpose of ultimately terraforming Mars. But there are also a lot of people who have slipped through the cracks and are utterly lost. And you get the sense that this is increasingly the case for younger generations, since certain working class jobs, such as in manufacturing and energy production, have already been completed. Or also, these younger generations did not choose this lifestyle. They did not choose to be Martians. Either their parents did, or grandparents, or onward. Someone else made the decision for them. So if someone wants to pursue creative endeavors or something else, they don't really have that as an option. So they end up feeling stuck. Later on in the novella, I thought Pop, who is Bobby's father and David's grandfather, really succinctly described the Martian philosophy. So I'm going to read you a few passages here. You know, back in the ancient days, they built cathedrals, massive churches lifted up to the glory of God, far, far beyond what you'd expect people to manage with just quarry stone and trees and a few steel knives, you know? Just a few simple tools. The thing that's important, though, is the time. You see? The time. Raising up one of those cathedrals would take whole generations. The men who drew the plans, who envisioned the final form of the thing, they would be dead long before it was finished. It might be their grandsons, or their great-grandsons, or their great-great-grandsons who saw the work complete. There's a beauty in that. Such a massive plan, such ambition. A man might be setting the final stone and think back to his own father, who'd set the stones below him, and his grandfather, who'd set the stones below that. To have a place in the great scheme, that was the beauty of it. To be part of something you didn't begin and you would not see completed, it was beautiful. All right, here's what I did not like. And I know Bobby was mostly sulking around after the events of Caliban's war, but I would have liked to see more of her character or her POV after having gotten attached to her in the second book. And I know that is challenging to do in a novella. You don't have a lot of space, so I know that James S.A. Corey really had to be focused here, and that they decided that David was the more exciting storyline. Totally get that. But I did like the TV series approach better because you got more Bobby. The prose seemed rushed to me, especially compared to Abaddon's Gate, which is book 3, and that has the best prose in the series yet, in my opinion. So Gods of Risk had some tired expressions, especially for a novella. Mask is used quite a bit to describe facial expressions, which I thought worked really well for Avasarala's character in book 2 because she's a politician. But saying that Bobby put on a mask of concern for her nephew makes the whole thing seem ingenuine. You're saying she wasn't really concerned about her nephew. And also there was a phrase early on in the novella saying that someone's face was dark with blood, or face dark with blood. And I thought, oh, that is so creative for a way of describing someone who is angry or full of rage. But the thing is, when something is that creative and you have such a short novella, you probably shouldn't use that phrase again. And it appeared not too many pages later. And you can get away with that in longer novels, but it really sticks out in novellas. Lastly, I thought Gods of Risk had a YA feel to it. And that's not just because it was about a teenager. You can write books about teenagers or children and they can still not feel YA. And I thought this did. All right, so I'm not going to rate this novella here just because it's so short. I'm only going to do that for novels. So to sum up, am I glad that I read it? Yes. I think it was worth it learning more about the MCR. Is it necessary for the series? Not as far as I can tell. I really do hope that we return to Bobby's storyline at some point in the novels, but I have a feeling that is not going to happen. I'll let you know, though, in my wrap-up video after I finish reading all the books and the novellas, and I'll let you know which ones I thought were really kind of important to the main storyline. Okay, so that's all for this episode. So please remember to subscribe and click the notification button to follow mine and Jordan's reviews here on iWizard. So until next time, bye.